Today we're going to talk about weeds. And no, I'm not talking about that famous TV show that appeared on Showtime a few years ago. I mean those pesky plants that seem to grow no matter what we do to stop them. Human beings have been at war with weeds for millennia, and we're still losing.
I'm always gonna be pulling weeds.
So what's my revolutionary solution for dealing with weeds? Do nothing. Leave them alone. Now wait a minute, don't turn off the video yet. Give me a chance to explain what I'm talking about. You may have seen my previous video about harvesting a ton of turmeric. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at this. Look at this. I was so happily surprised because I didn't expect such a good harvest. I had obtained some little tiny anemic tubers of turmeric, and I planted them hoping for the best, and was surprised when they actually started to grow. Shortly after that, I suffered a hyperextended right knee, and it involved a lot of ligament damage, so I couldn't get out on the farm to do work the way I normally do, and a whole jungle of weeds grew up around the turmeric. So I just kind of considered it to be a lost cause. Like the experiment was a failure, and I said I'm going to have to get some more turmeric and try again. Now that year I didn't do anything to control the weeds, and I just considered the whole thing to be a failed experiment. But to my surprise, the following year the turmeric emerged again. It's a perennial plant, so you would expect that. But the weeds came back too, and there was the same jungle of weeds all around the turmeric. But it emerged again, and it was doing very well in spite of the weeds. So I didn't do anything. I didn't take the weeds out. Once again, I didn't expect that there'd be much of a harvest. I said, yeah, there's turmeric growing there, but there's not going to be any harvest. So I still considered it to be a failed experiment. But I was interested. I took some footage a while back of the turmeric, thinking that I was going to make a video about it, but I was actually so ashamed by how unkempt the whole thing looked that I scrapped the whole idea of the video. But this is some footage of what the turmeric in the second year actually looked like, and it's very healthy, surrounded by weeds and grass, but doing quite well. I mean, look at it. The grass and the weeds are so prevalent that you can hardly see the turmeric. But I decided this year to say, what the heck, I'm going to see how much turmeric I actually have down under the ground. And I was really blown away by the size of the harvest. It really exceeded any expectation I could have had. And this was despite all of the weeds that were growing. This has caused me to rethink our whole relationship to weeds, and made me wonder, why are we so obsessed with weeds, with controlling them? Now, I'm not the only one to make this observation. Another YouTuber, Mark from the channel Self-Sufficient Me, made a similar observation, but with tomatoes.
I've been pulling tomatoes out of my grass for months now. And yes, I did say grass. It's a pile of rubble that I just left get weeded and grassed over. It was put there by a backhoe when we did the drainage for my shed. Can you see that? Really big tomatoes and excellent eating quality. Look at them digging down into the lawn here, and I'm pulling them out. Just completely covered and hidden by grass. This plant started up here, the top of this mound. The origins are around here somewhere, and then it's just cascaded down the hill. and the grass started growing up through the tomato plant. I thought, that's kaputs, but not, to the contrary. The tomato plant just grew better and better.
So again, Mark's video made me question why we are so obsessed with weeds, with controlling them, when they don't seem to be having the negative effect that everybody thinks that they do. This has led me to ask a simple question. What is a weed in the first place? Well, the most common definition for a weed is that it's a plant that is growing in the wrong place. But who decides it's the wrong place? Certainly not nature. If you look at nature, nature combines all kinds of plants together. The same thing with animals. Animals thrive in diversity. So it's not nature that made. We are the ones who made the decision that it's the wrong place. And why is that? Because we like to plant things in neat little rows of single crops, or called monocrops. We like a neat garden. But that's not how nature operates. Nature hates monocrops. Nature loves diversity. Monocrops are one of the main reasons that weeds are growing in the first place. Nature prefers harmony and balance, diversity and balance, not monocrops. So it's an unbalanced situation, and nature tries to correct that by returning the system to a state of balance. Think of it like this. Imagine a highway that is heavy with traffic, but the traffic is moving smoothly and everything is okay, even though there's a lot of density of traffic. And then suddenly there's an accident. That has upset the system of balance in the highway. So what happens? An emergency response team is sent to clean up all of the mess from the accident and return the system back into balance. Well, that's basically the function of weeds. They're nature's emergency response system to return the ecosystem back to balance. So let's say that you plant a row of lettuce in your garden, and in the middle of that row of lettuce, a tomato plant emerges. Is that tomato plant a weed? It's growing in the wrong place. It doesn't belong there. You didn't plan for it to be there, but it's there. Are you going to pull it out? Are you going to use a chemical to try to kill it? Probably not. You're probably going to let it grow and wait and see if it gives you any tomatoes. So now we need to refine our definition of what a weed is, because we found an exception. So a weed can be thought of as a plant that is growing in the wrong place, but is one that we don't eat. So if we eat it, it's not a weed anymore. Growing in the wrong place, but we eat it, so it's okay. But is it really in the wrong place? Maybe it's exactly where it's supposed to be, according to nature's design. Not our design, nature's. In fact, weed seeds only will germinate if the conditions in the soil are favorable for them to do so. This usually means that something critical is missing, and the weed is there because it's capable of replacing whatever that element is, so that it brings the system closer to a state of balance. So this also means, at the same time, the original crop that you planted probably lacks a sufficient nutrient for it to thrive, and it's going to struggle without the weed. So if you leave the weed there, chances are the weed's going to help it. If you take the weed out, chances are the situation's going to be hindered. So who are we to say that the weed shouldn't be there? By pulling it out and killing it, aren't we actually just going backwards and keeping the soil in a perpetual state of deficiency? That seems to be the case. So why are people so obsessed about controlling weeds? My theory is that we want the outside of our property, of our house, to look as neat and organized as the inside. of our house. These clips that I'm going to play give evidence of the extreme pressure that women were under. They were shamed by advertisers into obsessing about having a clean and organized house.
You've got ground-in dirt stuck in these little crevices. You need spick and span.
Ring around the collar, ring around the collar.
Those dirty rings.
So when it comes to our gardens, we want everything to be in nice, neat little rows with bare ground in between so that it looks very neat, just like the inside of our house. Well, the outside is not the inside in this particular case, and that's not how nature actually operates. Nature doesn't like bare ground. The first thing it tries to do is try to fill that bare ground with some kind of a plant, with a root. And that more than likely is going to be a weed. So before you obsessively pull out that weed or kill it with a chemical, maybe you should ask yourself the question, what would happen if I just left it there and I did nothing? Would I get the same result that Lita got with her turmeric, or that Mark got with his tomatoes in those videos? Would the weed actually help rather than what everybody says? Would it actually hinder? My theory is that it helps. Sure, your garden won't look as neat and well kept if you just let the weeds grow. But maybe we should also borrow something that women back in the 50s, 60s, 70s who responded to the advertisers shaming them into thinking that they were horrible housewives if they didn't have this pristine house. What did they say? Maybe we should think the same way with our garden. Bless the mess. That was their response. Bless the mess. And so, yeah, maybe our garden looks like a mess, but bless the mess. Look at the harvest that I got with the turmeric. So with that, this is a huge topic, and I'm going to make a number of other videos that are with a little bit more specificity to them about how certain things operate. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, I'm going to end this video, and I'll see you in the next one.